Hello and welcome to Wineskins, a program featuring reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda. Our show is sponsored by the Annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our show today, I will interview Luke Politsky. We will also hear more about the life of St. Katherine Drexel and the readings for this 8th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more on Wineskins. And now I'll speak with Tina Whitehead from the First Friday Club. Joining me is Tina Whitehead, who is a volunteer with Sabeel, who was in recently for the First Friday Club. Sabeel, we want to say, is a Palestinian Christian peace and justice movement. Tina, welcome to Wineskins.
Thank you very much.
You know, I'm just so excited, first of all, that you're here with us, but second of all, that we have an opportunity to talk about this important issue that's before us in this time and place that we find ourselves, and that's this whole element of hope. I know your presentation was hope in the absence of hope. You know, as we look at everything that's going on around us, not only globally, but even in our own lives and communities, hope seems to kind of elude us. Why is that?
Well, actually, I'm going to speak within a Palestinian context. They really don't have hope. The hope is disappearing. The title of the presentation came from a document put together by the Palestinian Christian leadership in 2009 called the Kairos Palestine document. And the last paragraph says, in the absence of all hope, we cry out our cry of hope. And I just thought that was such a powerful statement. And I've used that title for a class I teach with the Osher Continuing Education Program in Pittsburgh. But I changed it to Sumud, in the absence of hope. And Sumud is an Arabic word meaning faithfulness, steadfastness, just won't give up. And that's what I see in the Palestinian people. And that's kind of replaced hope. So even when there isn't hope that's tangible, they will not give up. And that is hope.
Let's talk briefly about what Sabeel is in the movement itself. Where did it originate?
It originated with a handful of people in Jerusalem 25, 30 years ago at St. George's Cathedral, Anglican Cathedral. It came out of conversation with the congregation there, the Arab congregation, on what it meant to be a Christian and a Palestinian. How do you put your faith together with the oppression that they were feeling on a daily basis? How do you let the world know that a Palestinian and a Christian go together when the world doesn't see you as one identity? And so they struggled with a lot of questions, and out of that came a liberation theology. And Reverend Naim Atik was the founder of Sabeel. He was the canon at St. George's Cathedral, and he became the director of Sabeel. And he's written extensively and spoken extensively on liberation theology from a Palestinian context. And their work was primarily to strengthen the Christian community within Palestine.
Let's talk about the Christian community in Palestine itself. Is it alive and well?
It's shrinking. In 1948, when all of the current issues started, there were about 10% Christians. Now there's closer to 1%. Mostly Orthodox, Catholic, and then there's Lutheran, Anglican, and a few others. But it's shrinking primarily because oppressive situation there just doesn't give them hope. And they want hope for their families, and so they leave. And they leave for anywhere they can go. All over the world, there are Palestinian Christians.
What could the folks that are listening now do in that situation? What would you ask them to consider, especially when we think about during this time and place how important it is to have hope in the midst of oppression and depression?
It's hard because it's not, unfortunately in the church, I think we look at solutions in terms of what can we give, how much money can we give to what kind of an organization. This requires a whole systemic change. And no one has been willing to step forward to do that. People in high positions know what's going on, and yet there's no will to change it. What individuals can do is to just become more aware of the reality there, because we can't act unless we know what's happening. So that's kind of what my mission is to be an educator on this. We say, teach pray, give if there are organizations you know of. When the pandemic is over, go and see for yourself and show them that you're supporting them and that you can be a voice for them when you come back.
I know in our own community, we have folks that do have family members who actually live in Palestine and are in communication with them. Fortunately, through modern telecommunications, we have that opportunity, but being able to actually go there and see them and visit is another issue.
That's the most powerful thing you can do. Sure. It'll change your life. There's no doubt about it. One of the things, and I work with tourism when I'm over there, is that we have people go and have dinners with families in Bethlehem. And it's just amazing how their views change just in that 1 hour, hour and a half of seeing the other as a human being, just like them.
Well, we're going to have an opportunity to talk to you again on Wineskins, and hopefully we'll talk more about that particular situation. But I'd like to thank you for your presence here, not only today on Wineskins, but also with the First Friday Club, and our prayers and best wishes for Sabeel and for you and the many others who are trying to give hope in the absence of hope.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. The Feast of St. Katherine Drexel is celebrated on Thursday. To tell us more about this virgin and religious is Brother Dominic Calabro. He is from the Society of St. Paul in Canfield and the production assistant at CTNY.
This Philadelphia heiress and founder of the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament for Indians and Blacks was beatified in 1988. She was the daughter of a wealthy banker and was raised by a loving stepmother since her own mother died when Katherine was still an infant. She traveled extensively and was well educated. Her family always contributed to the missions that served the Indians and African Americans. Katherine became involved in this apostolate, and later, when she had an audience with Pope Leo XIII, he urged her to be a missionary to those deserving people. Katherine entered the novitiate of the Sisters of Mercy in Pittsburgh, and in 1891 she founded her own religious congregation. In 1915, she established Xavier University for Black people in New Orleans. It is estimated that during her lifetime, she spent approximately $12 million on the apostolate to Indians and African Americans. Coming as she did from the highest level of Philadelphia society, Katherine's total dedication to the needs of the Indians and Blacks was made possible by her willingness to use the wealth of her inheritance for a good cause. She is an example of poverty of spirit and detachment from the goods of the world. Katherine Drexel is especially relevant to contemporary American society, in which unemployment, homelessness, and racial injustices are still a burden for the Native Americans and African Americans. The span of her life extended to 1955, and for that reason, her example and her apostolate are especially relevant to contemporary society. Hence, the petition in the opening prayer is significant. We ask God to enable us to work for justice among the poor and the oppressed. It is noteworthy that this prayer refers to the Eucharist as the focal point of unity in the Church. The opening prayer reads, "Ever-loving God, you called Blessed Katherine Drexel to teach the message of the gospel and to bring the life of the Eucharist to the African American and Native American peoples. By her prayers and example, enable us to work for justice among the poor and the oppressed, and keep us undivided in love in the Eucharist community of your Church." St. Katherine Drexel was canonized on October 1st, 2000. Drexel's legacy lives on since she was declared a saint in the Jubilee year of 2000 by St. Pope John Paul II. At her canonization, St. Pope John Paul II noted that Drexel's holy life serves as a timeless reminder that no greater treasure can be found in this world than in following Christ with an undivided heart, and in using generously the gifts we have received for the service of others and for the building of a more just and fraternal world. For Wineskins, I'm Brother Dominic Calabro.
Joining me today is Luke Politsky, who's the Director of Development and Stewardship for the Diocese of Youngstown. Welcome to Wineskins.
Thank you very much, Father.
You know, Luke, today we're going to talk about the Diocesan Appeal. Normally we would call that the Bishop's Appeal, but that's a whole new direction now this year. Talk about that.
Correct. So if I could describe our bishop, Bishop Bonner, in one word, as a man and as a priest, I would say, and as a bishop, I would say energy. And that's one thing he's brought us is some new energy. So that number one reason for the change would be his new energy and enthusiasm. The next reason that we've decided to go in a new direction is that Bishop Bonner himself has pointed out that the position of bishop nationally, internationally, unfortunately is not as highly regarded as it has been in the past. And to further on the point of a bishop's appeal, many people, many parishioners easily misinterpreted that as being something of the United States Bishop's Appeal. They thought, well, where is this money going? And we wanted to highlight that the money stays in the diocese. So all the funds raised benefit our diocesan ministries and our Catholic charities.
Let's talk specifically about some of those ministries that the funds really help out.
Most importantly is Catholic charities. Of course, Rachel Herbelich, our diocesan director of Catholic charities, is much more qualified than I am to talk about that. But these are our direct services provided to Catholics and non-Catholics alike. Just because it's called Catholic charities doesn't mean that they only minister to Catholics. We minister to all of God's people within our 6 counties, providing food, shelter, clothing. It's a wonderful way to get resources to the people who need it the most.
Let's talk about the theme for this year's Diocesan Appeal.
In addition to changing the bishops to Annual Diocesan Appeal now, our focus group said they would like to have a theme. And we were thinking about different themes, and what sort of emerged was our one in hope, one in mission. One takes cues from Bishop Bonner's Episcopal motto, that all may be one. Hope refers to the Catholic Charities side and their tagline, providing help, creating hope. And then mission is an interesting word. It's a very important word for both Pope Francis and Bishop Bonner. And I asked Bishop, if you could summarize mission for us, what would you say? And I think he went on for about 3 minutes on the different components of mission. But the ones that struck me the most were save souls, celebrate the sacraments, affect unity, serve the poor and those on the peripheries, and proclaim the gospel of joy. So that is our mission as Catholics.
What I'd like us to talk about briefly before we get into some of the other aspects of the appeal is that whole sense of mission. For us as Catholics, that's really fundamental as to who we are because we are on a mission. The mission primarily is to continue the work of Jesus. And so that really is what this diocesan appeal does. It helps the local church carry on the mission of Jesus. How can the folks that are listening kind of embrace that whole sense of mission in their own personal life?
When we look at our Lenten appeal, one of the aspects is almsgiving. So as we embrace that, we embrace our Lenten call to give alms, to donate. Some of us are not as called to give money, and they might be able to share their time or their talent. So sharing those with your parish, with those on the peripheries, with the poor, with Catholic charities is one way that we can embrace the mission. We hear so many times about how Christ ministered to those on the margins. He spent so much time with those people, and the highlighting just how important his ministry to those on the margins was. So that is our mission. And in a sense, we're all on the margins. We might be on a spiritual margin. So that's where the aspect of our diocesan ministries comes into play. We might think of these people as our neighbors, our friends, perhaps a family member, but these people need important spiritual formation in order to be able to properly minister to those of us who are parishioners at these parishes. That's what the diocesan ministries support does from the diocesan appeal.
Let's talk now about the actual goal itself. We know that the goal this year again is for $4 million. Talk about that.
Yes, our goal for the last few years has been $4 million. We think that's a good goal for us. We've hit that goal in the past, but the last couple years we haven't quite gotten there. We're hoping that with our new energy and enthusiasm, that will be attainable once again. We don't do this. We don't just pick these numbers out of a hat or draw them randomly. These are based on real projected budgets for the staff, the personnel, the resources that we need in order to serve those in parishes and serve those who are needy in our communities.
Let's talk primarily of what the folks that are with us can do to respond to this annual diocesan appeal. What are you asking the people in the pew to do?
Sure. There are a number of ways to give. Number one is responding to the letter that Bishop Bonner will send to all active, registered Catholic households. If there is an issue with not being an active registered member, I'd encourage you to talk to your parish. There are also envelopes provided in the parishes, in the churches or pews. Of course, there's online. We're in a partnership with a new online giving service provider called Give Central. They partner with archdioceses and dioceses across the country, Cincinnati, Chicago, Baltimore. So they're very well versed in aiding with our diocesan appeal. And we'd also like to remind folks that there are monthly and quarterly payment options for these. Besides that, one of the calls that I received last year was, I want to share some stock gifts, and we didn't really publicize that as much in the last couple years. So I'm working on that more, how to make those IRA distributions and stock gifts, those options a little bit more prevalent, and how to contact me to get in touch.
We know that this annual diocesan appeal, as you had mentioned, primarily helps Catholic charities.
Correct.
And that is really fundamental to the mission of who we are as church. And so we're really carrying on the Lord's mission to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the sick, give drink to the thirsty. So their money in this annual appeal really will continue that mission of the Lord, which is really our mission now. In closing, what do you want to tell the folks that are with us now?
I want to say thank you. Thank you for those donors, parishioners who have supported us in the past so strongly, so generously. And I will also want to thank those who are not yet donors, that they might be encouraged by this new energy, knowing that their gift stays within the diocese and affects those within our diocesan territory, our 6 counties. And I want to thank everybody for making a consideration, considering a gift, and for helping to support. If nothing else, I'd ask for prayers.
Luke Politsky, Director of Development and Stewardship for the Diocese of Youngstown, and also directing our annual diocesan appeal. Thank you so much for your presence today.
Thank you, Father.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. For more pertinent information and to listen to Wineskins, visit www.doi.org, the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
33 million Americans have descended into poverty. And as their futures fall, so does our nation's. By the time we can walk, each of us yearns for the joy that comes from being able to do for ourselves. Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy. Church World Service.
Our song today is by David Kauffman. It is from his CD entitled Surrender and can be found at goodforthesoulmusic.com.
Put a new right spirit here within me. Purify my heart. Purify my heart. Restore the joy of your salvation. Purify my heart. Purify my heart. Wash me, Lord, and I will be clean. Have mercy on me, Lord, according to your love. Take every sin and fault away from me. Longing to be whole again, sanctify my soul again, and I will be joy of your salvation. Purify my heart, purify my heart. Wash me, Lord, and I will be clean. Against you have I done what is evil in your sight. You would be so right to cast me out. But let these wretched bones walk in steps of only hope. Return me to you now. Put a new right spirit here within me. Purify my heart, purify my heart. Restore the joy of your salvation. Purify my heart, purify my heart. Wash me, Lord, and I will be clean. I will teach your ways of deliverance to hearts yearning for true love. My tongue will ever praise your presence, present to me now. Put a new right spirit here within me. Purify my heart, purify my heart. Restore the joy of your salvation. Purify my heart, purify my heart. Wash me, Lord, and I will be clean. Wash me, Lord, and I will be clean.
Our scripture reflections for this 8th Sunday in Ordinary Time will be by Deacon Mike Kocjancic. He is from St. Charles Church in Boardman.
One of my personal can't stand moments is when I come across a hypocrite. Those who say one thing to your face, but another behind your back. Throughout my 30 years of teaching, I came across many hypocrites. Students, parents, and even other teachers who blame others for saying or doing something in a certain way, and then turn around and you see them say and do the exact same thing that they just criticized in others. I can't even begin to count the number of hypocrites I've encountered throughout my life. Jesus is still delivering what in the Gospel of Luke is referred to as the Sermon on the Plain, cited in Matthew as the Sermon on the Mount. He has recited the Beatitudes to the crowd, told them the importance of loving one's enemies by doing good to them, and now he delivers a warning. Don't be a hypocrite. Hypocrisy comes from a Greek word meaning to act a part, to deliberately give a false impression, to wear a mask. Why would anyone want to say one thing but do another? The answer is fear. We're afraid of what others may say about us, may think of us, how they may feel about us. Granted, there is much to be afraid of in this day and age, and with our human nature, we act out our insecurities. worry about how others will judge us, wonder how things are going to turn out in this ever-changing world, and we're afraid of losing our place in the world. So many times we act on this fear instead of acting on the love Jesus has for us, and we become hypocrites. Is a hypocrite one who tries to do good and fails? No. Is a hypocrite one who is weak in the faith? No. The hypocrite is the one who acts out of fear, who tries to draw attention to self, get the approval of others, or the acceptance of the world. By our being baptized into the dying and rising of Christ, we have the opportunity to live life to the fullest. A life where our belief in Him is not hidden, but very apparent in our every word and action. It is not living life behind a mask, but openly witnessing to our faith, our trust in that higher power. The writer of our first reading is essentially saying the same thing we've heard throughout our lives, that action speaks just as loud, if not louder, than our words. Empty words, saying and doing those things the world expects us to do. They're just that. They're empty. But yet the world bombards us daily, loudly and strongly, with empty words and false hopes on how the world can solve all our problems. And often we find, sometimes too late, that those things don't bring us what's promised, don't bring us true happiness, true love, true relationship with God. The world only works for the here and now, while God looks for the here and now, but also the beyond, what is yet to be. We must be sure by both our words and our actions that we show daily we are His disciples, His children. We cannot be hypocrites, for when we meet our God beyond today, there will be no mask to hide behind. For Wineskins, I'm Deacon Mike Kocjancic.
The starting place for correction is right here within us, right here within you. Jesus said, "Remove the plank first from your eye, then you can see clearly to take the speck out of your brother or sister's eye." Wineskins is made possible by the Annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. The program is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda, wishing you a blessed Sunday and a safe week. And remember that this coming Wednesday celebrates the season of Lent with the distribution of holy ashes.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.